Hello. I wanted to start with some explanation of why I'm making this video, and I'm hoping that you'll watch the whole playlist. But it's really just to try and share this great news that God is real and and uh, wants to be involved in your life and has a future for you. Um, and I hope you don't think I'm some kind of nut in trying to do this or in talking about this, but I feel that for some unknown reason to me, God has just made some of these truths so perfectly clear, not because I'm a better person or have some character or something. I have no idea why, but I know different people come to faith in different ways. For some people, it takes place over a some period of time. Uh, for me, it was quite dramatic, and um, I just want to share that. And um, so I'm hoping you'll watch the videos, and I do have some concerns about the current culture right now, and kind of um, portrays belief in God. And not everybody, but some people feel that belief in God is like anti-intellectual or science disproves God. And so I just want to. Um, I'm hoping that you'll look at these videos with an open mind. And again, I don't have any personal agenda. I'm not trying to win, uh, arguments or it's. I just want people to know the truth. That's all. I hope. I know my students maybe they understand I'm kind of a boring monotone, but hopefully at least I'm viewed as an honest person who thinks that telling the truth is important. Um, you might be wondering why I'm starting with this little picture right here of this bus with this sign on it. There's probably no God. Now stop worrying and enjoy your life. Um, so you may have heard of Richard Dawkins, but anyways, he's I would say a very aggressive atheist. Now I'm not trying to criticize atheists in general. I have some of my uh, uh, I have some of my best friends and relatives that I have great affection and respect for are atheists. Richard Dawkins is kind of on the far end of uh, ridic ridiculing people, I guess, who aren't. But anyways, this is kind of an interesting statement. There's probably no God. So, and stop worrying and enjoy your life. Well, first of all, he's got this completely wrong. I can tell you that my life after becoming a Christian has far less worry in it. It's much more peaceful. I have confidence, and no matter what circumstances I face, or whether I'm sick or what happens in life, um, that that this isn't the end. I have hope for a future that God is in control and is watching over me. Um, and it says, and enjoy your life. Well, that implies that if you believe in God, you're not enjoying your life. I can tell you for a fact that living for Jesus is way better than living for yourself. It's my life is such more full and meaningful in living for God as opposed to just uh, before becoming a Christian, where I just was basically selfish, I guess is the only way to put it. And then there's this statement, there's probably no God. Well, imagine if you're the pilot and you get on the plane and you look at the co-pilot and says, is the plane all fueled up? Are we ready to go? And the co-pilot says, well, there's probably enough fuel, so let's just go. Uh, I don't think that would be something so important to an airplane as having enough fuel that you better go check, be very careful that that's got fuel. And I would say that there's no more important question in life than is there God? Does God exist? And if so, it changes everything, right? If there is a God, then there is a purpose for being here that God knows about and that you ought to seek. It's worth seeking God to find out if He exists and what His expectations are. So, anyways, the so here's another. Um, here's some quotes from Richard Dawkins. Uh, One of them is faith is belief without evidence and reason. Coincidentally, that's also the definition of delusion. Well, we actually have to exercise faith every day, right? I mean, you have to have faith when you sit in a chair that's going to hold you up. I have faith in my wife. Is it without evidence and reason? No. She's been a faithful wife for 40 years. So I expect in the future that she's going to be faithful. I mean, if I go to the doctor, if he's going to do an operation or something, you have to have faith that he's a good doctor. He knows what he's doing. That's not a guarantee that he's not going to make a mistake, but you might check and see what his credentials are. That will increase your faith, right? Well, in the same way, there are lots of reasons. There's lots of reason to become a Christian. There was lots of reasons for faith in God, and I hope you'll watch all the videos, and we'll get into more of that as we go through the videos. Um, Another thing I just want to mention in our culture, there are scientists who believe in God and scientists who don't. And some of the popular scientists who have not believed in God have kind of had uh, feel an obligation to communicate that, and that's fine. That's up to them. But here's a quote by the famous physicist Richard Feynman. Um, I believe that a scientist looking at non-scientific problems is just as dumb as the next guy. When he talks about non-scientific matter, he will sound as naive as anyone untrained in the matter. So let me just, again, my hope is that you'll watch the videos with an open mind and be willing to watch them. I think it's really important. And so, for instance, I can give you many examples of, as a Christian, uh, experiencing someone with a view that, you're stupid or anti-intellectual, or how could you believe that? And yet, in some cases, it's based on opinion, not on any kind of research. Or so I can think of, just to give you a few examples. Um, the physics teacher I had when I was a freshman um, was the head of the physics department, a brilliant guy and a great physics teacher, but he would regularly say that physics proves that there is no God. Now, I mean, I'd go back to the second page of my notes, in which it gave the definition of a fundamental law. And of course, all of physics is built on fundamental laws. The definition of a fundamental law was that it's a contrivance of man that allows him to explain and predict phenomena in nature, that they can neither be deduced logically nor proven by any finite number of tests. And of course, that's an exact quote, but that was in the non-gender neutral language of the 70s. So I apologize for using man and whatever. Um, it's like, so you have this area of study which is based on fundamental laws, which can be neither proven nor deduced logically. Um, they're always open to further testing. That's part of what science is about, that you're always open to more evidence. And and yet somehow these laws which apply to the material reality can somehow also apply to whether or not there's a spiritual reality and what that spiritual reality is. Where is God in any of the equations in physics? This just seems like such a ridiculous statement. And others like Carl Sagan have made extreme statements, I think, about um, God not existing. And the reality is that physics doesn't really prove that. In fact, some of the two of the most important um, concepts over the past 100 years have been the Big Bang theory, right? That the universe did have a beginning. It used to be accepted that the universe didn't have a beginning. It just never had. Had no beginning. And then, of course, more recently is the understanding of how fine-tuned the universe is. Um, that I've heard some physicists say that the probability that all the different constants being in the right precision and right values, that so many things that had to be come to play to be exactly the way they are in order for life to exist anywhere in the universe, that the probability is less than 1 out of the number of all the molecules in the entire universe. So of course, if um, that it doesn't prove there's a God, but it certainly seems like if the universe had a beginning and it was so that either some extremely creative and intelligent being created it, or there have to be another theory is that there's an infinite number of universes, so that out of all these universes there could be a couple where life could exist. But of course, that still doesn't answer the question of when did they start and why did it happen? And it's just even more fantastic. So, um, so just as another example, I think I was at a previous institution where I taught. Someone had posted in the conference room an article that said that basically that the reason that you always hear about how American students are lagging behind the rest of the industrialized world in math and science, and that the reason for that was because of Christians wanting creation taught in the classroom. That was why we were lagging behind. Um, so the interesting thing about that statement is, first of all, it talks about it groups all Christians into one bucket, I guess. I mean, I'm assuming they're referring to young earth, people who believe in young earth. Well, of course, in the Bible, the word for day in Genesis doesn't have to be interpreted as a 24-hour period of time. It could be some period of time. But anyways, the statement was made and posted. I guess somebody thought it was a good article with no research. There was no data. I mean, there was bad science, right? In fact, actual studies have shown that Christians are neither better nor worse than other students at math and science. And ironically, so the greatest mathematician, or the most published mathematician of all time, was Leonard Euler, and he was the son of a pastor and was a devout Christian throughout all his life. In fact, um, you've probably seen the number e before the natural logarithms, and that's Euler's number. And Euler's identity is e to the I pi plus 1 equals 0. That's considered the most beautiful theorem in mathematics by mathematicians. And I'll try to avoid getting off on a tangent in terms of why that's so beautiful. But so, it was a statement made with no evidence, lumping a whole bunch of group of people into one bucket and drawing conclusions based on opinion with no data. I think that's called bigotry, actually. But that seems to be okay, as long as you're talking about Christians. So again, I'm just bringing these things out because I want you to try and have an open mind when you look at these videos. So just one other person I'll mention here, Blaise Pascal, who's a French mathematician. The Newton, of course, is the SI unit of force in the metrics in the SI system, the metric system. Pascal is the SI unit of pressure. It's named after Blaise Pascal. He has kind of a famous quote, there is a God-shaped vacuum in the heart of every man which cannot be filled by any created thing, but only by God the Creator, made known through Jesus. And another quote from his: people almost invariably arrive at their beliefs not on the basis of proof, but on the basis of what they find attractive. And that brings to mind I had a colleague who we often had conversations about spiritual things, and I can remember at one point asking him that if Jesus if you could have it so that Jesus would come right into this room right now and show you that he's real, in on whatever way you need to know, so that in an undeniably way you would know that Jesus is real, would you want to know? And he said, no, I have no need of God. And I think I asked him that question again 3 times because I couldn't believe his answer. If you could find out if God was real, and if Jesus was the Son of God and he could appear to you so that you would know whether it's true or not, would you want to know? No, I have no need of God. So that was amazing to me. But when I had then I realized when I thought back on it, before I became a Christian, and I had frequently argued with a friend of mine who had become a Christian, and to tell him how stupid it was, and I read the Bible to try and find inconsistencies to show them that it was wrong. And I was told him that I wanted to believe it. It'd be great if I could, but it was nonsense. And of course, when I think back on that, in reality, I didn't want to believe it because I had my own agenda at that point in my life, and becoming a Christian was not going to be compatible with what I wanted to do. And so I put myself in that same category at that point. of not wanting to know the truth. And I would say that that is a very dangerous position to be in. In fact, I can't think of any position, maybe you're being held by a terrorist or something. That's pretty dangerous, yeah. Or um, or maybe you've just killed a couple of people or something, or maybe you're a drug dealer. There's no position worse than not wanting to know whether God exists. I can't think of anything worse because, again, that's the most important thing to know of all things. Because if there is a God, um, then it's important to know that there's a God and to seek God and to find out what the purpose is for your life. Um, and to consciously not want to do that that's not a good place to be in. Um, and I'm not saying that anyone who's an atheist or an agnostic or a Muslim or anything or whatever, that they necessarily don't want to know the truth. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that it's important to want to know the truth and to seek the truth. And this last quote by Pascal here that I have: "In faith there is enough light for those who want to believe, and enough shadows to blind those who don't." So uh, if you're interested in watching the rest of the playlist, um, the important thing is it's not to look at it as just some kind of intellectual curiosity, but as to consider it as something that if God does reveal to you the truth, then you have to be willing to act on it. It's not just something you can just casually seek God and expect to find anything. But the Bible says in Psalm 34:8 that to taste and see that the Lord is good. Um, God will reveal himself to those who seek to know the truth. And I hope that um, you'll watch the videos um, and consider the things in the videos. Again, it's not that I consider myself smarter or having more character or anything than anybody else. For some reason, God has made some of these truths perfectly clear to me, and they're great. It's wonderful, and I just want others to know about it and to find the same joy and peace and have eternal life. So thanks, and I hope you watch the videos.